Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Chloe Waterman with Friends of the Earth, and I'm going to be your moderator / MC for today's event. We have an incredible lineup of speakers who are going to share their perspectives on the importance of expanding access to healthy, plant-based foods in schools today, and how the Healthy Future Students in Earth Act will help accomplish that. Now, none of us would be here today without our first speaker, the co-host of this briefing, Representative Nydia Velasquez. So I'm going to introduce her, and she'll kick us off. Congresswoman Velasquez proudly represents New York's 7th Congressional District. She is the chairwoman of the House Small Business Committee, a senior member of the Financial Services Committee, and a member of the House Committee on Natural Resources. She was the first Puerto Rican woman elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, and in 2006, she was named chairwoman to the House Small Business Committee, making her the first Latina to chair a full congressional committee. Her district, which encompasses many diverse neighborhoods in Brooklyn, Queens, and the Lower East Side of Manhattan, is home to a large Latino population, Jewish communities, and parts of Chinatown. She is a fighter for equal rights for the underrepresented. She's a proponent for economic opportunity for the working class and a committed champion for community health and protecting the environment. It was her office that first reached out to us 2 years ago with this idea, saying, what can be done? My constituents want more plant-based meals in schools. And we're so glad that she did. It's my pleasure to turn it over to Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez.
Thank you. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you so much. I am really thrilled to join you all today for this briefing on the Healthy Future for Students and Earth Act, which I was proud to introduce with my friend, Representative Bowman. The bill will create a voluntary grant program for school districts to assist schools in providing healthier, climate-friendly, and culturally appropriate plant-based entree options to students. For many students, schools are so much more than just a place to learn, because they provide meals which are critical for students' well-being, health, and academic success. Young people spend most of their day in school, making it more important to have meal options that present students with healthy choices that are also respectful of any dietary, religious, or cultural needs. Providing students with plant-based entrees, both healthy and sustainable, is a win for students and our environment. Research has shown that food production is responsible for approximately 1/3 of all United States greenhouse gas emissions, and animal agriculture accounts for a majority of those emissions. Think about that for a second. Plant-based foods tend to be less carbon intensive than animal-based foods, resulting in less greenhouse gas emissions and a step forward to reaching our country's net zero goals. Eating plant-based foods can also help maintain a healthy weight, reduce the risk of diabetes, and protect against certain forms of cancer and other diseases. This legislation will invest in the health of our children and help combat climate change, while also prioritizing school districts serving large populations of food insecure students. Again, thank you all for listening in today and for your support and interest in the bill. The bill currently has 27 co-sponsors, and if you would like to add your boss's name, please contact Rumer Loyon on my staff. Now, I would like to pass it to my friend, Representative Bowman.
Oh, you're muted, Representative Bowman.
We should be masters at Zoom by now. How in the world did I let that happen? Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today to hear from my colleague, Representative Velasquez, myself, and the incredible panel of experts we've convened on our legislation. As a former teacher and principal who founded my own district public middle school in the Bronx, I know that education is a foundational pillar of our democracy, and we must center the holistic well-being of our children in everything that we do. Our job as a society is to unleash the full, brilliant potential of every single child in our country. And what happens in our public schools is central to that mission. We cannot simply focus on learning in the vacuum of our classrooms as needing to be exemplary. We must also ensure that the quality of the food in our schools and our children's overall diet is also exemplary. We have 30 million kids across the country, including 1 million in New York City, who rely on school meals for nourishment. These kids are disproportionately students of color and students from low-income backgrounds. These very vulnerable students are prone to experiencing food insecurity and adverse health outcomes. They are also the generation that will live to face the worst impacts of the climate crisis if we don't act boldly and immediately. Our children have a right to a healthy future, and that means providing them with healthy, plant-based meal options at school. Our bill seeks to overcome the barriers that cash-strapped school districts are facing when it comes to healthy, climate-friendly meals. School districts can use funding from this new program to increase their ability to scale up healthy meal options, such as by paying workers for the additional labor of preparing scratch-cooked plant-based food. They can use it for nutrition education and for promoting these plant-based options to students. And they can use it to help them procure plant-based foods from local farmers and marginalized food producers, including farmers of color. This is a crucial part of how we can build an equitable, resilient food system. Schools are the heartbeat of our communities. They touch the lives of millions upon millions of people in this country. So in addition to making sure our children are healthy, safe, and thriving, it makes perfect sense that we should be leveraging our public school infrastructure to literally build a better world from the ground up. Food justice is a personal passion of mine. So I want to thank Congresswoman Velasquez for inviting me to co-lead this bill. I deeply appreciate the opportunity to collaborate on this effort, which is perfectly aligned with the Green New Deal for Public Schools agenda that I introduced and have been focused on throughout my time in Congress. The Healthy Future Students in Earth Pilot Program Act is an investment in the future of our children and the planet and will pay huge dividends over their lifetimes. I hope you all join us in pushing for this new program. Thanks to all of you for being here and to all of our experts, especially our featured guests, for using your incredible platform to advocate for this important cause. On a personal note, I recently became fully vegan about a month ago, and I'm enjoying new energy, weight loss. I feel stronger in the gym, and I feel sharper mentally. It's amazing. And as a middle school principal, we had one of the only agriculture programs in the Bronx where our kids learned to grow their own food. And we had an organic farm in the Northeast Bronx while I was there as principal. So thank you all so much. I'm now going to pass it back to my colleague, Congresswoman Velasquez.
Thank you, Representative Bowman. Next, I would like to introduce our special guest, Billie Eilish. With the release of her highly anticipated sophomore album, Happier Than Ever, Billie Eilish remains one of the biggest artists to emerge in the 21st century. Since the release of her debut single, Ocean Eyes, in 2015, Eilish continues to shatter the ceiling of music with her gender-defined sound. Billie Eilish's latest album, Happier Than Ever, received an impressive 7 Grammy Award nominations for the 64th Grammy Awards. Eilish now holds 7 Grammy Awards and is the youngest artist to be nominated twice in several major categories in Grammy Award history. We are thrilled and humbled that she has taken a break from her world tour to speak in support of her other passion. but justice. The floor is yours, Billie. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh gosh, it is so lovely to hear you all speak. I am really honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me to speak today on something that I really, really care about. And thank you, Representative Velasquez and Representative Bowman, for introducing this legislation. I am so excited to be talking about this. I am here to support this bill because millions of young people like me are extremely concerned about climate change, social justice, health, and preventing cruelty to animals. I was raised vegetarian and I chose to stop eating all animal products when I was 12. Once I learned about how animals are treated in our industrial food system, I didn't want any part of it. Soon after, I learned about the connection between animal agriculture and climate change. Climate change is a huge threat facing all of us, but it is especially frightening for young people and for vulnerable communities who are really, really going to suffer in our lifetimes unless we make drastic policy changes now. One of the most unsettling parts about climate change for young people is that it feels so out of our control. We aren't the ones elected to office, making decisions on policies that affect our future. Members of Congress have that responsibility. So shifting our diets towards more plant-based foods can have a major impact on climate change. Young people should have that choice in their school meals because it's their future at stake, the future of their own health and the future of our world. And for the many of the 30 million kids in the US who depend on meals at school, that meal may be their only reliable source of food. And if we're not making healthy, plant-based options available in our schools, we're denying people proper nutrition. At the very least, students should have the choice of nourishing plant-based foods for the sake of their own health and for the health of the planet. For people watching this from home who want to help, please tell your member of Congress you want them to support this bill. For those of you working on Capitol Hill, thank you so much for taking the time to come learn about this bill, and I hope that you will implore the representatives to take action. Thank you guys for having me. I sadly have to go because I have a show to do, but thank you all so much. It's really exciting to be hearing all of this, given how important this has been to me for so long, and I feel, like I can't change anything, and it's really nice to hear people trying to change stuff, so. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Billie. It means the world to us. Thank you so much. And now I would like to pass it over back to Chloe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Representative Velasquez. And I want to echo that thanks to Representative Bowman and to Billie. I mean, she is amazing, guys. She played a sold out show in Madison Square Garden over the weekend. She has another show that she's playing tonight to a huge crowd, and she's taken the time out of her day to do this. It just speaks volumes to her character and to her commitment to food and climate justice. So thank you so much. So we thought it would be too cruel to put any of our next panelists right after Billie. So we do have some young people who are up for the job. So next we're going to preview a brand new video that's launching today. You all will be the first to see it. That features students from across the country sharing why they want to see more plant-based foods in schools. So I am going to share this video.
I support the Healthy Future Students in Earth Act.
Right now, plant-based foods are seriously lacking in most school cafeterias despite growing demand from students.
This new bill would expand those options.
Other than sun butter and jelly, there are no other plant-based options.
I'm tired of only being served meat at school. I want healthier options
like tofu, beans.
I want healthier choices like chickpeas and lentils.
Accessible dairy-free milk products, and actual fresh fruit and vegetables.
Hummus wraps, soups, bean chili.
I'm sad that plant-based foods are not available in most school cafeterias.
Students who want or need plant-based foods for ethical, religious, or health reasons are left with no choices.
I choose not to eat meat because I don't like to eat animals.
Having limited plant-based options can mean going hungry at school. I've had to go without food at school just because there was nothing I could eat at the cafeteria.
This is not okay. Students need to be able to eat and ready to learn.
Additionally, we are facing a climate crisis.
We deserve school meals that are good for us and the planet.
If every public school swapped out a beef burger for a veggie burger just once a month,
we could save 1.4 billion pounds of carbon dioxide each year.
We deserve the right to choose meals at school that are good for the planet and align with our values and do not contribute to climate disaster.
Fortunately, there is a solution. The Healthy Future Students in Earth Act would create a federal grant program to help our schools offer more plant-based options.
Please pass this bill
to protect animals,
to protect our health and our planet.
All right, well, those are certainly some very powerful advocates for our cause. Somebody who has always known that it's young people who have the greatest stake when it comes to school food and climate change is our next speaker. A lifelong advocate for food justice and climate change, Maggie Baird is committed to building equitable solutions that move us all to action. She engages audiences in a dialogue about climate change and plant-forward eating through her weekly Instagram live streams. Her passion for the health of our planet has inspired thousands to change their lives. Baird is the mother of Billie, Eilish, and Phineas. It's a family affair today. Recently, she's also applied her knowledge to the entertainment industry, working to make Billie Eilish's world tour green and sustainable, and helping the audience to integrate environmentally friendly practices into their lives. In 2020, Baird founded Support and Feed, an LA-based organization focused on developing innovative intersectional strategies to ensure underserved communities have access to nourishing plant-based food that also benefits the welfare of the planet. Under Baird's leadership, they expanded to 4 cities within its first year, and Support and Feed is currently working toward expanding its services throughout the United States. Maggie received the Farm Sanctuary Compassionate Community Award for her work to promote the benefits of a plant-based diet and animal welfare. We are so fortunate to have Maggie and her team at Support and Feed in the trenches with us as we work to expand access for plant-based food to people in need. And we're delighted that you'll have the chance to hear your perspective today. Over to you, Maggie.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm honored, and I think like Billie, I am very moved by this. It's been a long time talking about this in our lives, and to see action taking place is very touching and very moving. Thank you, Representative Velasquez, Representative Bowman, for presenting this legislation. I'm going to talk about why I think this legislation is so important and why it gets it right, but I'm going to give you a little bit of my history so that it'll add some context to that. I became a vegetarian in the 1970s as a teenager in Western Colorado. Very unusual at the time. My brothers also became vegetarians. I later became a vegan. I became a vegetarian because I cared about animals. But very shortly after that, in 1981, I learned about the connection between animal agriculture and the environment, particularly in terms of the Amazon rainforest. And I just want to repeat that date. That was 1981 that we knew about this connection of animal agriculture and the destruction of our environment. So I had then 2 reasons to really be committed to my plant-based diet. And then sadly, in 1987, my mother died suddenly of a heart attack, and in her 50s. So I had 3 very strong reasons to be committed to my diet. I had really all the reasons people speak about. And I will say in those days, it wasn't very easy to do it. There was not a lot of food available, but I have privilege. I could cook, I could shop, I could find at least most vegetables. So I had that ability. I know most people, or many people, don't have that privilege, but I did. But it was definitely difficult. And we'll admit that it's gotten a lot easier for many of us to find plant-based food. But again, those of us with privilege have that opportunity. And let me just go back to that date, 1981, because the fact that 40 years later, we're still talking about that in terms of our institutions, where our children are every day, that we're just barely starting to think about that is quite shocking. Let me cut forward a little bit to, as you commented in my bio, that when my children became involved in the music industry, I was quite shocked about some of the lack of sustainability in that industry. So I really committed myself to finding out how we could make it more sustainable in terms of the merch and the touring and the vinyl production and photo shoots, really everything we do. That really became a large part of what we all did together. And then cut a little forward, we went on Billie's world tour in 2020. I know you know what's coming. And that tour was going to be very sustainable, carbon positive. We had all vegan catering, we had composting, we had really addressed so much. And then COVID happened and we went home. When we got home, Billie and I were in the living room and we started talking about how devastating COVID was going to be for so many people experiencing food insecurity and people who would be new to food insecurity. And then we also thought about all the small plant-based restaurants that we love and how important those restaurants are because they help expose people to delicious food that turns them on to this way of eating that we know is so much better for their health and so much better for the planet. So kind of overnight, we delivered some meals to a local organization that we just ordered, and we realized that it needed a little tweaking. So with the help of tremendous amount of incredible volunteers, we formed Support and Feed. The premise of Support and Feed is that we would deliver nourishing, delicious, restaurant quality, plant-based meals to people experiencing food insecurity, helping to support the local economy and to feed people. We really thought this was just a COVID crisis response. But what happened was we stepped into the world of food insecurity. And as all of you know, your eyes are open wide. The need for food was so tremendous that we very quickly realized that if we could target our food to communities with community organizations that were already doing amazing work in their community and working in food apartheids, communities where people had lack of access, and deliver delicious meals to those communities, we could really increase our impact. And that if we also included with that resources, information, education when appropriate, communication, being open to listening to people in the community. What did they like? What were they enjoying? What were they not so keen on? What did they want to know about their health? Even having some of our board members, our board member in particular, who's a physician, talk to people in the communities. In New York City, we did some schools. We did all kinds of, we had over 100 organizations that we work with providing these meals. We learned so much about what was missing in the food system. It was quite shocking. One time in particular, we at Support and Feed found ourselves sort of inadvertently tied in with the public school program of providing meals. And as I helped hand out what turned out to be a bag of milk, cheese sticks, and sausage biscuits to a community where we know there is a large prevalence of lactose intolerance, I felt sick to my stomach, knowing that we were providing meals, not we at Support and Feed, but with the school program, we're providing meals that were not only particularly healthy, but also would make some of the recipients ill. So our mission has grown as was stated in the bio, and we are expanded to all the cities on Billie's tour, providing meals and providing education and information about the health of the food and about the impact of climate change. So why do I think this bill is important and why does it get it right? We have known for 40 years that moving toward a plant-based diet is essential to mitigating the climate crisis. We know that a plant-based diet is healthier and can lead to prevention of non-communicable diseases such as heart disease, which I sadly lost my mother to, and diabetes. We know that the same people who are or will be the most impacted by climate change are also the same people who are experiencing hunger. Children deserve nourishing plant-based food that respect their personal health and the health of the planet that they will inherit, and we have a moral obligation to provide it for them. This bill gets it right, and here's why. Through our work with those 100 nonprofits, we have learned that young people are more likely to make healthier food choices when they receive informational resources. And because the meat and dairy industries are subsidized by the government, we at Support and Feed have faced the obstacle of comparable meal points with other food nonprofits. Comparable meal price points, let me say. This bill addresses both of these challenges and more, and provides the opportunity for success by funding not only plant-based options, but also education regarding them. It addresses that there may be additional costs associated with these meals, particularly since they will not include foods that are often currently subsidized, and it allows for culturally appropriate meals and an effort to ensure that the food is delicious as well as nourishing. It supports the supply chain from farmer to plate. To sum it up, it's set up for success, and that really, really, really matters. It may be 40 years later than I would have wished it, but I am so glad that we have this opportunity to begin to do things better. In fact, if I had only one complaint with the bill, I wish it wasn't 50 grants. I wish it was 1,000. We can do this. We can make things better. Thank you for your time. I think this is an exciting moment. I'm so honored that you all are here to learn about this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Maggie. We are so grateful for your leadership and partnership over 40 years. I mean, that is really impressive. We're so lucky to count you as an ally in this fight. Our next speaker is Genesis Butler. Genesis Butler is a 15-year-old environmental and animal welfare activist and one of the youngest people to ever give a TEDx talk. Inspired by her great uncle, civil rights leader Cesar Chavez, Genesis went vegan at the age of 6 and has earned numerous awards and recognitions for her activism, in addition to being featured on an episode of Marvel's Hero Project by Disney+. She is currently leading the Youth Climate Safe Movement, the first youth-led environmental organization that focuses on animal agriculture's impact on climate change and aims to give all young voices a platform. I will just add that personally, having the opportunity to work with Genesis gives me hope for the future that can sometimes look quite bleak otherwise. So thank you so much, Genesis. Over to you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Genesis Butler, and I am a 15-year-old Afro-Indigenous Mexican, and I'm a sophomore in high school. I went vegan at the age of 6 when I found out about factory farming, and I became a climate and environmental activist at the age of 10 when I discovered the negative impact animal agriculture has on our planet. I'm the founder of Youth Climate Save, which is the first youth-led organization to focus on the connection between animal agriculture and climate change. And there are over 30 chapters in the US. I'm here today to speak as a representative of the youth who are demanding more plant-based options in schools because they are finding it very difficult to find more healthy and plant-based food options at their school cafeterias. Members of Youth Climate Safe state the biggest struggle they have while trying to eat plant-based is the lack of plant-based options at school. My generation is aware of the negative impact animal-based food is having on our planet, and because of this, we want more plant-based options. We know animal agriculture is a leading cause of deforestation, water shortages, ocean dead zones, species extinction, and pollution, and is also one of the leading causes of climate change. We also understand the importance of individual actions to help the planet, and eating plant-based foods is one of these actions we can take, so we need more access to plant-based foods. Schools will be the best place to provide plant-based foods since we spend so much time there, and most often students eat most of their daily meals at school. Youth have a huge stake in plant-based school food because our future does not look good if we continue to purchase animal-based foods that are not climate friendly and take up too much of our needed resources. I do not eat school lunch because there are no options for me, but I see my friend's school lunch and it consists most of meat and dairy products. How can we combat the climate crisis if we continue to eat foods that are fueling climate change? We also have a huge stake in plant-based school food because we can be the generation who helps heal the planet and stop the climate crisis by addressing climate change with diet change. Thank you to the congressional staff who are participating in this event and working with us to find ways to get healthier and more climate-friendly foods into our schools. I'd also like to thank all the young people watching today and taking the time to support an act that can help secure our future on this planet. You don't have to be of voting age to make a difference. Our leaders want to hear from us and they listen, so please contact your member of Congress and encourage them to prioritize your future by supporting the Healthy Future Students and Earth Act. You can also take action right now by texting PLANET to 30644. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Genesis. And, we also have to thank Genesis's principal who had to grant her permission to step out of class to give her remarks. Thank you so much for being here, Genesis. It's such an honor to work in this coalition with you. I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker. Tracy McWhorter is a public health nutritionist and transformative leader in the field of plant-based nutrition and Black women's health. She has been helping people incorporate more plant-based foods into their diets for 30 years. She created the 10,000 Black vegan women and 10 million Black vegan women projects to change the paradigm of Black women's health. She is a best-selling author, and New York Times cited her work as a key factor driving the rise in plant-based diets among African Americans, who are the fastest growing demographic for plant-based diets in the US. Tracy, thanks so much for joining us. Please take it away.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Tracy McWhorter, again, a public health nutritionist and a vegan of 35 years, and it's great to be here. Besides being better for the planet, a plant-based diet can also improve students' health. Plant-based diets are healthful for all life stages, from young to old. Plant-based diets are high in fiber, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, and they're void of cholesterol and can have low or no saturated fat. Plant-based foods can also reduce the risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease, can help maintain a healthy weight, and can protect against certain forms of cancer and other diseases. A healthy diet is even more important during the pandemic. Diet-related conditions aggravate COVID-19 mortality. According to the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, 94% of COVID-19 deaths in the United States had contributing factors. Many of these contributing factors, like hypertension, type 2 diabetes, cardiac arrest, and heart failure, are conditions that are experienced by African Americans the most for a variety of systemic and unjust reasons. Plant-based foods are one of the most effective and immediate ways to address these largely preventable chronic diseases. Many children rely on school meals as a primary source of nutrition. Building a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, healthful grains, and legumes from a young age could help children prefer these foods throughout their lives. Healthy diets can help boost academic performance and overall well-being. We must ensure that all students have the options for healthy and nutritious meals. Congress should advance the Healthy Future Student and Earth Act to expand access to healthful plant-based meals that will improve students' health. I hope you will all support and co-sponsor this vital legislation. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tracy. I'm so glad that you were able to be here and add that health element, which has been so important all along, but I think has been really underscored by COVID. And as you mentioned, the diet-related diseases that honestly are emerging really early in life for some students, and school meals are such an important foundation to change that. So thanks so much for bringing in that point, Tracy. Our final speaker is my good friend, colleague, and deeply valued coalition partner, Eloisa Trinidad. Eloisa is an award-winning policy advocate, educator, and activist fighting to end hunger and protect our planet, children, and animals. Eloisa's work, which expands over 2 decades, takes an anti-colonial approach to center Indigenous, Black, and Brown people, the most impacted by climate change and by food insecurity. She is the executive director at Chili's on Wheels, where she makes plant-based eating accessible to communities in need. And she's the chapter president at Hip Hop is Green, where she teaches and empowers youth to improve their health and wellness and that of the planet. She has received various awards and recognition for her dedication to food justice, the environment, and animal welfare. I'm really excited for you all to get to hear her perspective today. Go ahead, Eloisa.
Thank you so much, Chloe. I'm so excited to be here. It's truly such an honor to speak alongside these incredible activists on this panel. I work with students and families who often don't know where their next meal will come from. Many of them don't have the option to refuse what's given to them, and most feel disempowered to speak up about it, even if that food isn't healthy, isn't culturally relevant, and doesn't align with their values. I stand before you as an activist, an educator, a policy advocate, and as someone who experienced this very same issue as a child over 30 years ago. As an Afro-Indigenous Latina whose hardworking immigrant parents could not make me school food. I gave up eating animals at an early age and depended on school food. I often could not eat anything else except an apple because that is all that was available to me. It is now 2022 and still no federal changes have been made to support plant-based meal options in schools across the country. This should not be the case. Everyone should have access to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced sustainably and equitably, and that aligns with their religious and philosophical beliefs. No child should face going hungry at school due to lack of access to food that meets their needs. One of the most frequently asked questions I get from students is, why doesn't the government ask us what we want to eat? This question was first asked to me by a student who developed severe health problems due to lack of access to healthy food and who took it upon himself to start eating healthier in middle school. This student was also in great fear that his little sister would become just as sick one day. These are not the things that we want our children to be thinking at school. We want them focused on education and on having a good time in learning. Although his parents worked multiple jobs, they found it extremely difficult to provide better food for their children because of the high cost, as is the case for many Indigenous, Black, and Brown families due to the long history of marginalization and exclusion brought on by colonialism. School meals are a lifeline for so many of our students. According to the School Board Association, since 2008, the number of homeless students identified by public schools each year has increased by more than 100%. And food insecurity currently affects nearly 50 million people nationwide, most frequently families with children. That's 1 in 4 children and 1 in 3 families who face food insecurity. Experiencing food insecurity can lead to severe mental, emotional, and physical health problems. As a nation, we must do everything we can to ensure that all students have everything needed to succeed, including proper nutrition. And we must also work to protect our planet for all generations. When we talk about hunger, we must include everyone, especially those with dietary restrictions. For the food insecure, dietary restrictions pose an additional challenge. Studies show that households with dietary restrictions are more likely to experience both pre-pandemic and pandemic-related worsening of food insecurity than those without food restrictions. The Healthy Future Students and Earth Act is a crucial part of changing the narrative on how we address student hunger, climate change, and freedom of religion and belief. It is a start to providing much needed support to schools that wish to offer plant-based meals. I want to end by thanking all of the congressional staff for attending and by encouraging all the folks watching the live stream to get involved. Lack of access to proper nutrition is a political condition. We're only going to succeed in changing policies if our elected officials understand the importance of plant-forward K-12 menus for the health of our students and the health of our planet. So make that phone call, send that email, and share that tweet asking your representative to support the Healthy Future Students and Earth Act. I will turn it over to you, Chloe, to share the quickest and easiest thing you can do from home to advocate for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eloisa, for your comments and for your relentless work, both on the ground in New York City and in the halls of Congress for a more equitable food system. Such a joy to be able to work with you. Before I share how to get involved for those watching on Facebook Live, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all of the food service professionals, from food service directors to nutritionists to cafeteria workers and janitorial staff who are working tirelessly to provide school meals every day. Due to time constraints, we weren't able to have all of those perspectives represented on the panel today, but this legislation was created with their input and their needs in mind. There are so many school food service professionals. We work with a bunch of them who want to shift toward more plant-based menus. They're hearing that demand from students, but they need policies like the Healthy Future Students and Earth Act to support them in overcoming those barriers that they're facing. So to make that happen, for all those watching on Facebook Live, before we end the live stream, I want to reiterate how much your voice matters. So I'm going to share my screen once more so that you can see the number to text to get involved. It's PLANET to 304 30644, excuse me. Within 15 minutes, you will get a link that will help you to contact your member of Congress. You can also find out more at forkidsandtheplanet.org. You can see the bill, find out other ways to get involved, and learn more about these issues. Thank you so much. So before we move on to Q&A with the congressional staff, we're going to say goodbye to our live streamers online. Thank you so much for those who have joined us, and we hope to work with you going forward to make sure that this issue finally gets addressed, that Maggie doesn't have to come back here in another 40 years in her wheelchair, that we get this done right now. So thank you so much. And Chris, cue to end the live stream.